We do have the Q&A feature set up so you can ask a question anonymously. So go ahead and put any questions you have in there as you think of them at any time. We'll also have a couple places where we'd like you to participate in the chat. Please, feel free if you're comfortable to answer our questions there in the chat as well. And we will hopefully share some new things today for you. Okay, so to get started, this is me. I'll be real with y'all. This is my undergrad college ID and my grad school college ID. My major when I was in undergrad was theater, and that was a lot of fun, but ended up not being the career path that I wanted to take, right? And so I, in my time in undergrad, had worked in a bunch of different student services offices. I worked for the student programs, which is like our student organizations office, and learned a lot about how you could actually have a job at a university and help other students. So that's what I decided I wanted to do with my life. And I started in career services, and then I worked in advising. And so I've worked here at UT for a number of years in advising. I worked with students who are undecided in their major. I worked with students who were working on a certificate program. And now I'm here in SSI working with advisors to help them kind of be the best that they can be. So one of the things we're going to look at today is what is advising. So I'd love it if you would put in the chat, what do you think of when you think of advising? What's like one of the first things that comes to mind when you think about advising? Any ideas or anything that you think of when you think about advising or what that means to you? Helping, awesome. Guiding students on their academic path, a holistic experience. Yeah, fantastic. All of these things are part of advising. And we've got some other things on the screen for you too, right? Thinking about planning, thinking about goals, decision-making. All those things are part of what we do as advisors every day. One of the things that we like to say in advising excellence is that advising is an interactive relationship between the advisor and the student that helps identify and plan for short and long-term education goals and also career goals. Advisors work to empower students to make decisions about your interests, goals, abilities, and degree requirements. So we do a lot of things, but the main thing that we do is try to help students out with those goals and help them identify what they want to get out of their educational experience. So why advising? What are the benefits? So some of them are those things like staying on track for graduation, helping you think about that plan that's going to help you complete your degree on time. Help you navigate the university. This is a huge institution. There are lots of offices, lots of different majors, lots of things that people do on this campus, and ways that places that help you and support you. And advisors can help you find those things and make those connections. Can also help you think about your personal interests and goals. What do you want to do with your time at UT and afterward? And think about those short-term and long-term goals to help you achieve those things. But really, one of the big benefits of advising is that relationship. You've got a person on campus to help support you and help you be successful. And you and UT for me are actually lucky that you have multiple support people, right? You've got your academic advisor, you've got your UT for me coordinator, you've got your financial aid folks. So an academic advisor is another person on campus to help you, be the best that you can be and help you succeed in whatever your goals are here at UT. I will say that relationship building piece has probably been a little different for y'all in the Zoom world instead of in the real life world. Those Zoom meetings maybe aren't always the best place to engage and feel a real connection with people. Hopefully you found some of that. But if not, know that there's still time. It isn't a make or break kind of a thing. There's still time to build those connections and start kind of deepening those relationships. And one of the ways that I would suggest doing that is don't just show up the one time that you need, to clear your bar to register, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But, thinking about ways that you can ask questions of your advisor, things that you want to know about, and going to meet with them more often helps make that relationship, build that relationship up and make that connection stronger. So when do you go see an advisor? So something else I'd like you to put in chat, some ideas on when might you go see an advisor, or email, or drop into a Zoom, have drop-in hours. When might you try to connect with your advisor? Before registration, definitely. That's an important time to connect with your advisor. Are there other times that you think might be a good time to connect with your advisor or reach out? You're struggling in a class? Absolutely. Yeah, or failing a class, or worried that you might fail. Yeah, these are a bunch of really good ideas. So here are some other ones. You mentioned some of these before registration when you're planning out what classes to take. If you're struggling or failing or worried that you might fail a class. If you have a question about a campus resource and you just can't find it, or you don't know if it exists, or you want, need help making that connection, that's a great time as well. If you want to think about those long-term planning goals, what do I need to do, in a couple years? I want to do an internship. When do I get started thinking about that? And you want to set some goals for yourself. And really, anytime that you have a question, or you are curious about something on campus, or you thought you knew something and you weren't sure and you couldn't find it, advisors are here to help you with all of those kinds of things. So some people say, like, how often do I need to meet with my advisor? And we really recommend for registration, obviously, if you are thinking about, like, what do I even need to take? Definitely then, but also other times as well. And as frequently as you need to connect with them is definitely, there's no requirement. Some of you may have a requirement, but I recommend once a semester just to make that face-to-face connection. But it can be more or less than that, just as you need to reach out and to make those connections. So Yanira, have there been any questions that have come up in the Q&A so far, or are we still on track with everything?
No, there has not, but I do have my own personal question.
Sure.
And you mentioned that your advisor can guide you through internships. Would our advisor be able to provide us with a letter of recommendation or help us obtain one?
That's a great question. Yes, your advisor might be a really good person to reach out to for a letter of recommendation for an internship or for a scholarship program or something like that. Absolutely. Sometimes the particular program that you're looking at might need certain things. They might want a professor, or they might want a past employer. But if they have, you need two different letters. I, as an advisor, have written those letters of recommendations for my students for internships quite a bit. So absolutely, that's a great, another good reason to build that relationship, to get to know them and let them get to know you so they can write you that good letter of recommendation. Awesome. So the next kind of section that we're going to talk about is thinking more immediately. Registration is coming up. Are y'all ready for next semester already? I'm not. It's hard for me to believe that it's already kind of time to start thinking about summer and fall. Although, I talked to a couple students who are like, yeah, I'm totally just done. Like, I'm ready for the school year to be done and just like refresh and move on. So some things to help you get prepared and start thinking about what comes next for registration. We're talking a little bit about your registration information sheet, your RIS, interactive degree audit, or IDA, your degree plan, and the course schedule. And so hopefully you've heard of all these things before. We're going to kind of go over a little bit about some of them here. First off, thinking about getting started, registration begins April 19th and it runs through April 30th. And you are going to register for any summer classes at UT and any fall classes at UT during that time frame. But everybody has their own specific time that they get access to the registration system. So you can check your RIS to know when you register. If you go and look at it now, it won't be updated. It'll still have all the stuff from last semester. All of that stuff gets updated around the beginning of April. So sometime either the very end of this month or the first couple of days of April, that'll be updated. They haven't told us the exact date yet, but as soon as they do, I guarantee you'll start getting some emails about it. You'll also look at your RIS for bars. The most common types of bars that restrict you from registering are financial bars and advising bars. So a financial bar is if you owe money to the institution. And I used to say parking tickets, but now y'all hopefully aren't getting parking tickets since not everybody's on campus. But if you, for any reason, have been, owe money to the institution, you might have a financial bar. And then also some majors require advising every semester or once a year. You might see that advising bar there as well. There are some other kinds of bars that are less common if you need your high school transcript did never get turned in, or you need to update your emergency contact or something like that. So you can check your RIS to find out when you register and what bars you need to clear before you register. But you don't have to wait until the end of the month to start planning for those things. To start planning for what classes to take, to meet with your advisor. You don't have to wait to do any of that kind of stuff. So you can definitely schedule an appointment with your advisor anytime now if you'd like to meet with them before registration starts. In fact, I recommend doing it as soon as you can, at least scheduling that appointment. They may not, you may not want to meet with them for another couple of weeks, but if you can go schedule it soon, you can get your pick of the days and the times that are available. So as you're thinking about what to take in the summer and next fall, it's kind of helpful to think about what is in a degree, what makes up a degree at UT. And it's kind of these three categories: core and flags and other kind of requirements that everyone at the university completes, your major, and then everything else. So your core is 42 hours of coursework, your major is 30 to 40 hours of coursework, and there's everything else to add up to the total hours that you need, which is usually 120. It varies by the degree. But that everything else is, general college requirements. Does your college require a foreign language? Are you required to do a minor? Are there other classes that you need to do, to have some kind of general education for your college or area? And all of these are things that you can start thinking about: which classes do I want to take next semester? Which areas am I most interested in looking at? And what do I need to do to get ready? One of the best ways to do that is by checking your IDA, your degree audit, and your degree plan. So what's the difference? Your degree plan tells you what your overall requirements are for anyone who's completing the degree. So I've got an example that's up here on the right side, the Youth and Community Studies major. It looks kind of like a check sheet. Some of you might have boxes kind of organized by year. In your first year, you're going to do these. In your second year, you're going to do these. And these are, everybody takes these classes that's in this particular major. The degree sheet, your degree plan might also have lists of classes that you need to fulfill that requirement. So you can see an example of that here. You've got this, humanities entry, and then it has some course numbers next to it. So here's some classes that you could take to fulfill that requirement. Your IDA, your degree audit, is your particular path to that degree so far. So that's this example that's kind of the yellow and green and gray. It's telling you what classes you've already taken to meet those requirements. So this is kind of a cool way for you to start thinking about, what have you already taken, what do you have credit for already, and where are those places that you still need to fill in, and then comparing that to the degree plan checklist to see, what are the specific classes I need for that particular requirement. Something to know: if you've run a degree audit before, or if you haven't, you want to see what that looks like, it'll ask you for your catalog, which is super confusing. But basically, your catalog is based on the semester you started at UT. So y'all are all going to be in the 2020 catalog when you run that degree audit, because you started in fall of 2020. So if you're going in to run a degree audit to kind of see what classes you have, you can also pick, if you want to look at, what if I changed my major? What if I added a minor? How would my courses I've taken so far count towards those things? You can either run hypothetical examples, or you can just run exactly what you're already taking. Once you get some ideas, go ahead, Yanira.
What if I want to take classes at a community college? How would that impact my degree audit? Is there some sort of lag before running it to account for those classes, or how long should I wait to see it reflected?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you've already taken classes at a community college, like you already completed them last summer, or you took them as dual credit in high school, um, if you took them as dual credit in high school, we should already have them on here. So you should be able to run that degree audit and see them. If you took them after graduating from high school, like last summer, in between the space, you took like a winter semester, this January, you have to ask that school, that community college, to send your transcript to us. So there is kind of a lag time in there. If you haven't made that request yet, it won't show up on your audit. But once you do that, it will show up on the audit. So you'll be able to see that. And that happens every time you take a class at a community college or away from UT anywhere. So every time you take something, if you do something this coming summer or next winter, you're gonna have to do that request again to send a transcript to us.
And then a question from the chat is, how can minors affect your degree audit?
Sure, that's a great question. So unless you're in a degree plan that requires a minor, and not everybody does, if you're in a degree plan that requires it, it'll already be built into your audit. And there'll be a section, this one that you can see here shows the core curriculum, the black bar at the top says that's the section we're in. You'll scroll down and there'll be a section that says your minor. If you're in a degree that doesn't require a minor, that part won't be there. So if you just decide you want to do one, you can add that on. You can talk to your advisor about how to add that minor to your degree audit, or you can just kind of do it independently and talk to your advisor later. But there are ways to add that in if it's not already showing up there. So you can track, what courses you have left for your minor as well as for your major. That kind of answered the question, I hope. If not, ask me again. Okay. Awesome. So, we've looked at, your classes that you're still taking, that you need to complete still. In this instance, this kind of white bar in the middle of the core curriculum here, that's a class that's missing, that still needs to be completed. This gray bar shows that you've completed part of that requirement, but not all of it. There's still 3 hours left. If you're getting some kind of categories, we need some natural sciences. We want to look at maybe our major classes and think about what comes next in the major, trying to make some lists of classes that you might want to take. Then you're going to think about the course schedule to see what's actually going to be offered. And again, this isn't out yet, so you can look back at last fall and last summer and get some ideas, but not every class is taught every semester. So you'll have to kind of wait for sure to know until the next course schedule comes out, which again should be the end of this month or the very beginning of April. Same time as your RIS sheet will be updated. Y'all have seen the course schedule before because you registered for classes this time. So hopefully you get a sense of how to do that. But once you start thinking about those categories or types of classes, then you can browse on the course schedule for which specific days and times you want. One thing that we don't have a lot of information about yet, and Alex and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, we don't know exactly what fall is going to look like yet, as far as being in person or having hybrid options. But we think that the university is hoping to mostly be back to normal, whatever normal looks like after the pandemic, right? So we're going to be in person more. The university is anticipating that there'll be more in-person classes and fewer online only classes, although there'll still be some for certain. This summer is probably going to look a little bit more like this year has been so far. So mostly things that are online, maybe some hybrids, maybe some in person. So you can kind of get a sense of what your day-to-day life will look like once we get that schedule out. But one thing that the registrar's office has let us know as advisors is that some of this might change over the summer as we see where we are with vaccines, as professors kind of get a sense of, they want to be back in person. They want to see you in their classes. They want to get to know you. And so if they're able to teach in person, they're going to want to probably. So there might be some changes over the summer just to keep an eye on what that looks like for fall. One little tip from me as an advisor, have you heard of flags? UT has what they call skills and experience flags. There are 6 of them, 6 flags over Texas, right? Clever. So plan for them now. I feel like I talk to students a lot who are juniors and have, 2 or 3 semesters left and say like, oh yeah, I'm going to do all my flags next year. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea because that's a lot to get done in just those few semesters. So start thinking about them already. The flags are these little letter abbreviations that I have here: cultural diversity in the United States, ethics, global cultures, which is cultures outside of the United States, independent inquiry, which is like independent work and research, or writing often. QR is quantitative reasoning, and the last one is writing. So these 6 different skills are things that UT decided that students need to know to become effective, future leaders and be effective in your career after you leave UT. So they'd add these things on that every student gets to take, but they're overlapped with other classes. So you're not just going to take a cultural diversity class. You're going to take a class that incorporates that theme into the topic of the course. So this is an example down here on the bottom. This is a visual performing arts class, something that's required for core, that has 3 different flags on it. You're going to learn about global cultures, you're going to learn about ethics, and you're going to do some writing in this class. So they added all 3 of those flags on it. So I think it's helpful as you're looking at those classes and you're looking at the course schedule to think about what you're already going to take, what you want to take, what you are planning to take for your major, and find ways that you can incorporate the flags into them rather than just like pushing them off and dealing with it all later. If you can take them now, you can get those done with stuff that you're already taking. It'll just make your last year or 2 much easier. A lot of these are also already built into your curriculum. So like if you're an engineering major, they want you to learn about what does writing mean for engineering. So there's an engineering communications class that every engineering major has to take that has that flag built into it, because you want to know how are you going to use this in your actual career path and your actual educational path. So those are marked on your degree plan probably. If not, kind of think about ways you can incorporate them and talk to your advisor about that. So Yanira, are there any other questions that have come in at this point before we jump to the last kind of section?
No, there have not, but you mentioned the course schedule. Can your advisor help you get into a closed class, or how would that work?
That's a good question. So the example on this slide is closed, right? Because this is from this semester. It's full. Everyone's enrolled in it already. And can your advisor get you into a closed class? And the answer to that is it depends. So in some instances, classes are restricted or reserved or closed because they're saving seats specifically for majors or for minors or for a certain population or certain organization or group. So your advisor might be able to. Usually if a class is closed, it means it's totally full, although somebody might drop and there might be some ways to get in that way. If a class says it's reserved, your advisor might be able to find more information for you if the course schedule doesn't tell you who it's reserved for. But that's definitely something that you can ask your advisor about. It's a good question to ask. As you're looking at the course schedule, you see a class that you really want says reserved or has already closed, especially early on in the registration period. And then you can look at and talk to them about. Cool. So we've talked about ways that you can kind of prepare for going into that meeting with your advisor. Thinking about what you still need, what things you want to take, thinking about the course schedule if it's open before you go in for that meeting, and thinking about what specific classes you're interested in. I recommend also writing down a list of questions that you have for your advisor. If you see a class that's closed, make a note of it, and you can talk to your advisor about that when you meet with them. Write down what kinds of things you're thinking about for next year. One other thing to be aware of, and I didn't put a slide in, but I wanted to let y'all know, since we're thinking about summer registration right now as well, if you want to take summer classes, do be thinking about if you want to take summer classes here at UT, or if you want to take them at another institution. So there's some benefits to taking them here, definitely. And that's a good thing that you could talk to your advisor about as well when you meet with them, because they are thinking right now about the next 2 terms, both summer and fall. And so what is that going to look like? And are there courses you need in summer in order to take something specific that you want in the fall. So be sure to think about both of those things in the springtime as you're going to register. So all of that's well and good if you feel like you're really in the right place. You love your major and everything's going super great. But there are definitely instances where students come in at this point, especially after you've had a couple semesters now and you're maybe kind of in your first or second class in your major and you're like, I don't know if this is the right path for me. I don't know if this is what I really want. Or you like your major, but you took a sociology class for your core social science and are like, man, this is super cool. Jillian, who was supposed to present with me, had an example that she had a computer science student that she worked with, a computer science major, who took an African diaspora studies course to fulfill a requirement, which is like, I don't know, I'll just check a box, and loved it so much that she took the rest of her classes, all her elective areas that she could take in that discipline, and is now doing a PhD in African studies and thinking about what she wants to do with research in the future and ways that she can combine those two interests. So there are endless possibilities at UT to create the degree and the overall educational experience that you really want. That's one of the major benefits of going to such a big institution, is that we've got majors, we've got minors, we've got certificates, we've got a bunch of student organizations that have really cool projects that they're working on or cool skills that you can gain. You can study abroad, you can study domestically, like you can go to Washington, D.C. and take classes from UT and kind of like a study abroad in Washington, D.C. You can do research, you can do internships we talked about before, on and off campus jobs, lots and lots of ways that you can kind of create that experience that you really want, that education that you really want from your time at UT. So, kind of an example of that is I worked with an RTF major, radio, television, and film, who's really interested in environmental studies and environmental sciences. And she really liked both, and she didn't want a double major because she felt like that would take too much time, and she didn't have, she wanted to get out of college and not take out a ton in loans. And so she found that there's a certificate at UT called the Bridging Disciplines Program, Certificate in Environment and Sustainability. And she could do her major and do the certificate. And she worked with a professor doing scientific research. And so she could learn both, and she could do both things. And now she's working in a communications role for an environmental sciences nonprofit. So there was a way for her to combine both of those things without having to, to do two completely different majors or change her major completely. And I think that comes up a lot. Students think, I had a student who was a biology major who also really liked history, and he was thinking about changing his major. He just really wasn't even comfortable with biology anymore. And we talked about what his interest was in history. It turned out that he was really interested in like natural history. And there's a museum studies program at UT, and UT has a natural history museum, and he did an internship there. And so learned a lot about, fossils and how we display, biological specimens and things like that. And so just lots of ways to make your education your own. But it's also really important to think about that there are lots of paths, and there aren't any wrong paths. Your major doesn't equal your career. There are lots of things that you can do with the skills that you're getting here at UT, whether that's directly related to your major or not. Your advisor can be a really good resource for this as well. But there are also other places on campus that you can go to find out more. So advisors in the Vic Center for Strategic Advising can help you think about the other academic options that we have at UT. And career counselors at Texas Career Engagement do all kinds of things, but help you think about what kind of job or work setting you might be interested in, or if you're thinking about grad school, they can help you think about what that process and path looks like as well. So don't feel like you have to make a major decision about your life today and that's your educational path forever. But also know that if you are not declared yet and don't have a major yet, or you do have a major, you're like, I'm not so sure about this, there's still time to explore and find out what it is that you really want to do at UT. Yanira, what other questions do we have so far?
Yes, a question from the chat is, if we are thinking about pursuing a minor and or a certificate, at what year would I look at pursuing that?
That's a really good question. I think that kind of can start as soon as you're ready for it. If you're thinking about a particular minor, you want to minor in a language, or you want to minor in, like I talked about before, African diaspora studies. Start now. Think about that for fall. Think about registering for a class to explore that area. If you're thinking about a certificate, do some research on what type of certificate it is. We've got a business minor, we've got the pre-health profession certificate, and start thinking about those classes as soon as you're ready to take that on. If you're like, yeah, I probably want to do that, but I just don't even know what I'd be interested in yet, you don't have to start right now. A minor or certificate is usually somewhere between 15 to 20 hours of coursework, depending on the particular certificate or minor that you're looking at. So that's a semester and a half of coursework. So usually, as long as you've got a year left, you have enough time to do that. But that's definitely something, if that's something you're interested in, put on your list of things I want to talk to my advisor about when I talk to them this semester. Because they can kind of, give you a sense of the major you're in has the most space in junior year. So definitely, that's a good time to do all of that. Or the major you're in doesn't have any space in your senior year because you've got a bunch of, capstone projects and things. So if you want a minor, you better start today, kind of a thing. So some of that varies, but definitely talk with your advisor about that.
And another question is, if I start a minor and realize it's not for me or I don't want to pursue it anymore, is there a formal process into quitting that minor, or do I just stop signing up for the classes?
Yeah. So again, that kind of depends on your degree. Are you required to complete a minor? Or are you doing it because it's optional, you're just interested? If you're doing it because you're just interested and then you're not interested anymore, stop. You don't have to do anything specific. It's helpful sometimes to let your advisor know, like, hey, I'm not going to do this minor anymore, so that they're not continuing to remind you, don't forget to take that sociology class to finish your minor. Say, oh no, I'm not doing that anymore. And they're like, okay, cool. If it is a major, a lot of liberal arts majors do require that you do a minor. So if you're a psychology major, you're required to pick a minor. If you're required to pick a minor and you picked one and you started on it, and you're like, nope, not for me, talk to your advisor or start looking around. Find another, another set of classes that might be interesting. Think about what else is out there. In that instance, you're going to have to let your advisor know that you're going to change your minor, because they have to update that in your degree plan. But if you're doing it just because it's optional, just stop if you don't want to do it anymore. Fantastic. So we've come to the questions part. Are there other questions that y'all have, or things that you want me to share or talk about more that we covered here?
Do you have any tips as an advisor on how to effectively browse the course schedule once the time comes?
That's a really great question. Yes. So one of the things to think about is the type of class that you're looking for. So you can search the course schedule by core category. So if you want to take a core class, and you want to take, you're looking for natural science and technology core requirement, there's a checkbox. You can search just for that core requirement. Same thing for flags. If you want to take a flagged class, you can search just on that requirement. My other tip that I think that people don't think about is, if you scroll farther down, you can pick a specific course number. So if you're looking at your degree plan and it says you have to take, or you're looking at the core and it says you have to take, a specific course number, there might still be options for that within that class, or there might be, you need to figure out which section you want. If you're looking at Bio 301D, there are a lot of those. So scroll a little bit further down and put that specific course number that you're looking for in, so it'll pull up all of your options within that, rather than just searching for bio at the very top and pulling up every single biology class that's offered this fall. You can also filter within your search. So say, you're looking for a history class because it's for the core, and you do your core search for history. And then you also need a cultural diversity flag. You can, there's a checkbox once you've got your results to help you filter even further within there, or you can search by keyword within there. There are lots and lots of classes in the course schedule, so sometimes it can definitely be like a lot to browse through if you're just picking like every lower division chemistry class. It could be a lot. So using some of those options to filter down can help you find a little bit more of what you're looking for.
And besides any academic topics, are there any other things our advisor can guide us with?
Yeah, lots of things. So academics is the obvious one, right? Like that's in their title. They're an academic advisor, but they can also help you think about, what do you want to do with your life after UT? Think about careers. Help you think about what kind of student organizations exist at UT. That's something that's also can be really overwhelming. There are literally thousands. I forget what the exact number what is now at this point, but over 1,000, maybe close to 2,000 at this point, student organizations. And so thinking about ways to get involved on campus, your advisor can help you think about what those things are as well. I will also say that, a lot of advisors on this campus have training in counseling skills as well. So if you're having some kind of interpersonal problem, problems with your roommate, problems at home, and you just don't know who to talk to or who to ask, your advisor can help you with that as well. And maybe they aren't actually a professional mental health counselor and aren't going to be able to give you that kind of advice, but they can help you think through next steps and think through where to go. I like to think about advising as kind of an encyclopedia of UT. So if there are things that you're like, how do I become an FRI research mentor? Ask your advisor, because they probably know, or if they don't know, they know how to get you connected to that, which is kind of the same thing as your UT for Me coordinators as well. If you don't know who to ask, you've got people to ask. And so that's the beauty of the advisor and the beauty of these coordinators with UT for Me, is that they can help you, find answers to any kind of questions that you have. I will also say, as advisor, man, I do this because I like people. So if you want to just come talk to me and tell me about how things are going, like tell me about your life, tell me about where you went on vacation, if you got to go on vacation last year, tell me about what's going on for you, what you're doing in classes, or what you're doing, just in regular life. I really enjoy that part of it, and getting to know people and getting to know students. So those are also places that you can connect with your advisor, just to get their insight and get their thoughts on your life as well as your academic situation.
Right. There are currently no more questions.
Okay, fantastic. Let me end my share.
Well, thank you so much, Julia and Yanira. I'm so glad we were able to do this, and we can have this as a resource for our students. But this is recorded, and I will stop the recording now. But of course, if you have questions, reach out to Julia, reach out to me, anyone on the UT for Me team, reach out to your advisor, and we can definitely